Villains was written and directed by Dan Burke and Robert Olson and tells the story of two amateur criminals, Mickey and Jules. Mickey, played by Bill Skarsgård, who was Pennywise in the new It, and Jules, played by Michael Monroe, who was the lead in It Follows, pretty underappreciated horror movie with an interesting premise. And after a pretty funny opening sequence where their dream is to go to Florida, Mickey even says to Jules, hey, you're nervous. Think about Florida. Think about the beach. Think about the sun. Think about the warmth. Think about all the great things we're going to do when we knock over this, commit this crime, commit this robbery. We're able to go to Florida and live our life. As all young people want to do, why get jobs when you could just knock over a gas station? So they knock over a gas station, take the money out of the register in a pretty funny little scene right there. And then they go on the run, they get in a stolen car, and they're driving. Well, they forgot to get gas there, or forgot to get gas in general. They run out of gas. They didn't pick the best car, but hey, when you're desperate, you're desperate. And now all of a sudden they're trying to figure out where to get gas because they can't call AAA. They can't call anybody because it's a stolen car. They're criminals. They just knocked over a gas station. They can't possibly, they can't possibly, they're stuck. They're pretty much fucked unless they can find another house, but they're out in the middle of nowhere. Or are they? Jules sees a mailbox just up the road. They manage to find a house, pretty nice looking house. Nobody's home. They're like, okay, maybe we can find keys in there. We can siphon gas out of the car. We can find some money, some jewelry, even though they have money and a lot of drugs in Jules's purse. The idea is, okay, they just want to knock over the house. They want to do this. Well, things seem a little bit weird when they get to this house. There's fake fruit. It's very, very quiet. There's like no pets. There's no nothing. The house is very clean. The house is very neat, but it's almost too quiet. Now, granted, it's out in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody, really around. They didn't really show any other houses around, but something seems a little off. Okay, so they find some shit in the house that they really should. I'll get into spoilers here in a little bit, but they find some shit in the house that they really shouldn't have, that they really shouldn't have found if they wanted to survive. But as, young criminals and as anybody would do in a movie like this to advance the plot, you do something stupid like look around the house and, try to maybe have some cereal and stuff like that and leave traces that you were there, even though they had already busted open the door, so it wouldn't have been obvious to the homeowners at all when they got home. But I digress. They find they find something that they shouldn't have found. The homeowners get home. They are played by Gloria and George. And Gloria is played by Kyra Sedgwick, who was in The Closer, and George is played by Jeffrey Donovan, who was in TV's Burn Notice. He was also in Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. He's come a long way since that, let me say that much. And they just seem like a very, very proper Southern couple and everything. But obviously, Mickey and Jules have found out this secret about them, and they're like, what the fuck, what's going on? You guys are absolutely insane. What the hell is going on? And it turns out that they basically broke into the wrong house and some creepy shit goes down, some bad shit goes down. And pretty much the bulk of the movie from there is just taking place in that house. So that means that the movie is pretty cheap. If they had put this movie on Netflix, I don't think it would have been missed at all. That's not to say that the movie is bad. And in fact, the movie actually is pretty tightly kept, just focused on the little plot, which is a very simple plot and a very basic plot, to criminals that you're not really supposed to feel for, even though they have a dream of just going to Florida, come across two people that seem innocent but really, really aren't. That's the thing about this movie, though, is it is something that you've seen before. Now, the performances do drive it pretty well. There's only 8 people in the cast. There is a cop that shows up later. There are the 2 people in the gas station in the first scene. And then there's another cast member that I'll get into. There is a girl in there. You just basically have a very, very small cast, so that way they keep the costs low. And Bill Skarsgård and Michael Monroe actually do a pretty good goddamn job as, young people in love that just really want to get the hell out of this house, realizing they broke into the wrong house. They're in way over their head. And Jeffrey Donovan and Kyra Sedgwick do play their roles absolutely perfectly, so really that is the best part of it. The plot is very basic, though, and at 88 minutes, some parts of it feel a little stretched out. Other parts, it's like, okay, they just kind of went from scene to scene to scene. So at least the movie had a decent pace to it. I can't say the movie is great, but the movie did have its moments. So I'm going to get into spoilers here in just a little bit. If you want to go see it, you could wait for Netflix. This really isn't something you need to go see. Though I will say the movie certainly isn't bad, but could have been on Netflix. Anyway, I'm going to get into spoilers here. But yeah, the performances are pretty good. So anyway, 3, 2, 1, and go. So basically the idea is they, after, getting into the house, they find a little girl chained up in the basement. They're like, what the fuck is going on? We need to free her. Mickey's pretty good at picking locks. He tries to pick the lock of this girl is chained in this basement. What the hell is going on? So when the owners get home, George and Gloria, they confront him about that and everything seems good until until the girl gets freed. Because, Mickey has a gun and he's threatening the couple because they have a girl chained up in their basement and that doesn't seem normal at all. So the girl, because she, has Stockholm syndrome and doesn't know what's going on with these two strangers that came in, bites Mickey's hand. Basically bites him, scares him, obviously hurts him. And then, George knocks him out. And from there, they're trapped in, various scenes and stuff like that. At one point, there's, Gloria is trying to, they're a freaky couple that likes to keep people keep people and kill them. And that's implied in one very, very early scene when they break into the house, Mickey and Jules do. And there's one point where he just, casually tosses this video camera that was in this desk, and which just happens to turn it on. You suddenly see just a very, very brief shot of somebody with a knife going to attack a couple that is, captured in this house. Oh shit. You probably should have picked a different house. So anyway, the whole idea of this is it's just one scene after that of Bill Skarsgård and Micah Monroe trying to escape. And you get a feel that they actually had some pretty good chemistry. And I will say that Jeffrey Donovan and Kyra Sedgwick did pull off the creepy, couple that didn't have article. They were goddamn sadistic, but they felt they were doing what they could to have the best life possible. And then you got the little girl, who certainly wasn't bad. She didn't really get to say much except at the very end of the movie. But there were some points in it where I'm just like, okay, you had every opportunity to go, and you didn't go. There was this one funny scene, more towards the end. Kyra Sedgwick could not have children, so she had this doll that was a gift from her mother. And was a way for her to, have a child and stuff like that, even though they had the child in the basement. But yeah, then the girl was chained in the basement because, the girl that they kidnapped, turns out that Gloria didn't really want her because she reminded she's not really my kid. So what do you naturally do with a kid? You scar her more by putting her in the goddamn basement. But anyway, there's this point where, Jules manages to escape. They decide that they're going to let Mickey go because he says, wait, she escaped the house. If I don't leave, then she's going to call the cops. So if I don't meet her there, then she's going to call the cops. Well, Jules finds this doll, smashes the doll. That sets everybody off, especially Gloria. And then it turns out that these guys get, this evil couple drugs the two young people, and instead of letting them go, they're going to just find them all pumped full of drugs and everything, and pumped full of the worst drugs that they have, like cocaine that they have in their purse, because of course what criminals wouldn't have cocaine? That comes back into play in a little bit. The cop shows up, so they're, Gloria manages to somehow get them away out of the chairs that they were, duct taped to. Which, that's exactly what you do when you want to capture people. You just duct tape them, but you leave their arms free, where they could have just busted that tape. I know that duct tape is tough, but they could have busted that pretty easily because they still had their hands free to eat. Why didn't they just take the utensils and do that? They had every opportunity to get away. Anyway, so she somehow manages to get both these bodies to this little gym area, but the purse is right there in this gym area, Jules's purse. She manages to somehow get to the cocaine because they're on all these, sleeping pills and stuff like that, or all these downers that were laced in the food. She gets the cocaine. She wakes up, gets Mickey and, to snort some cocaine. They're both awake and everything. And they suddenly decide, well, hey, we're going to hide, and then we're going to save this girl, and then we're going to get the hell out of there. Well, things don't quite work out because they are criminals, of course. You do have to have some comeuppance. So what ends up happening basically at the end, Mickey ends up getting shot by George, but George ends up getting hit by the car as it gets out of the garage that they just happen to have. They're a pretty nice car and everything. There was this really, really cool part at the end where the little girl ends up shooting George when he's like somehow still alive and trying to choke out Jules. That was a pretty cool scene and everything, but it was a very, very basic movie with some decent performances and everything. And of course, Gloria obviously was completely insane. There was one earlier scene where she was trying to seduce Bill Skarsgård. And I'm like, oh, terrific. I never wanted to see this. I really didn't need to see that, but it was what it was. It did capture how creepy the couple was. And then, so Jules and this young girl go, like, they leave without taking the money that's in this, the money that was in that purse that she had. But I believe the purse was in the car. You could have gotten the money and been able to get somewhere, but maybe she just wasn't thinking clearly. And then the movie ends with showing with showing her and this young girl at like, a Florida beach somewhere, and they're just, they're out living a good life on the beach and stuff like that. So okay, everything works out all hunky dory. I know it seems like I went into a lot of detail there, but it's just really, the movie was basic. I just pretty much gave you the whole plot there. If you watch it, you'll enjoy it, maybe, but you could wait for Netflix easily. You don't need to watch this in theaters. Though I did get in for free. I had a free movie ticket from Regal, so I mean, it worked out. I didn't have to pay for it. I just had to drive to Northgate, which was the earliest, the closest theater that was showing at the earliest times, about 40 miles away. But anyway, it was worth it. C. It was C. It was fine. It wasn't anything great, but if there's not a pull above my head, please let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritland. I'll see you soon.